creation of Kumaras and others. In that chapter, we discussed that how Brahmaji actually created 5 features of ignorance. He created tamaha or darkness, moha or illusory bodily conception, mahamoham, false proprietorship of enjoyable objects, tamishram, anger upon frustration, and amdhatamishram. Why he created that? So that the living entity could live peacefully without going into the direction of self-realization. Because if one goes for self-realization, he knows that what his real self he is, then he would not be happy in this material world. So to make that thing come to that to the persons in or jivas in this material world, Brahmaji created that avidya, or the 5 features of avidya. But then in the next verse, he felt so much displeased why he had done this. So then he created 4 Kumaras from Vidya potency. So actually 4 aspects of Vidya, that is Sankhya, Yoga, Vairagya and Tapas, appeared in the form of Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatana and Sanat Kumar. And then Brahmaji told, okay, you increase the progeny, but they refused to do that. So Brahmaji became angry, but he controlled his anger. But because he became angry, in the next verse, like in the verse number 7, from between the 2 eyes appeared Rudra. There is a birth of Rudra there. So creation of Rudra is described, and what places are given to Rudra and how. But he started increasing the progeny in a different, in the mode of ignorance. So then Brahmaji told, okay, you calm down, you go and do tapas. So he went to do the tapas. When he went, then Brahmaji created from his body and mind different sons, like 10 sons, like Narada, Vasishtha, Daksha, Bhrigu, ityadi. And then he created dharma and adharma and factors which instigate adharma. And then kadam. So all those are being created, and after that, then various manifestations. Then 28 to 23, there is a walk episode where Brahmaji was distracted by being inclined towards his daughter walk, and then many of his sons, progeny, they wanted to stop him, but still he got illusion in that path. So this kind of illusion can bewilder anyone, even Brahmaji, that was there. So then they prayed to the Supreme Lord, and Brahma, ashamed of that attitude, he realized that that is not the way it should be. And then he gave that mentality. And after giving up that mentality, then he did the further creation. Then the 4 Vedas, Upavedas, the Panchama Vedas, which are the Itihasas. He created them. Puranas and Itihasas create. And then Karma Tantram, he created 4 legs of Dharma, 4 ashramas, their vrittis. Then he created arts, sciences, and celebrated hymns, meters, and alphabets, and different swaras. All those things were being created. But he saw some deficiency, because then what he thought, that he created only sages. So there is some kind of deficiency, because sages are not increasing the population the way he wanted. They were Prajapatis, but they were not Prajapatis he was wanting that way. So he was a little displeased. So when he was thinking about that, by that deficiency, he actually left that body which was creating the left, means that mentality was left. That's what is described. It's described that being influenced by the spirit of gentle. Okay, sorry. It is described that Brahma accepts a new body, like whose body is composed of the Veda. Shabda Brahma is invested with multifarious energies and is personal representation of the Supreme Lord. Giving up his previous body, Brahma accepted a new body in which sex life is not forbidden, and concentrated his mind on creation. So coming from that, because when he created rishis, so it was forbidden. So all the rishis were there, but they were not increasing the population. So then he came to another aspect of that. And when he was thinking Then Manu and Shatrupa appeared. A feminine and a masculine form appeared. They were Manu and Shatrupa, and then they started creating progeny. So this chapter, which is named as Appearance of Lord Varaha, there was inquiries by Vidura to Maitreya again, saying, I'm eager to hear what the original and saintly King Manu did after getting his wife, from 1 to 3, the verse number 1 to 3. On the 4th verse, it is described that the great goal of hearing from Guru is to hear about the pure devotees. This is about Vidura asking to Maitreya to hear about Manu. So that's why he's asking Guru. Why? Because he wants to know about the pure devotees of the Lord, because they are created. Brahma is a pure devotee of the Lord. So whatever the creation is, he wanted to know more about Manu and his wife, what they do later on. So then from 9, verse number 9 and 10, there is like Brahmaji says, you have the qualities to increase the progeny. So qualities of an ideal son, he mentioned, and he instructed Manu, Brahmaji instructed Manu to beget progeny, rule earth, and worship the Lord. And now in this verse, actually, he's saying that whatever should be done, it should be done for the pleasure of the Lord. Because if a work is done which is not for the pleasure of the Lord, it is a futile exercise. So this verse is an instruction by Brahmaji to Manu. So let's recite this verse, and then we'll go into more details. So let's recite. Yesham na tushto bhagavan.
Yesham na tushto bhagavan.
Yajnalingo janardanaha.
Yajnalingo janardanaha.
Tesham shamahi aparthaya.
Tesham shramo hi aparthaya.
Yadatmanadritah swayam.
Yadatmanadrita swayam.
More time. Yesham na tushto bhagavan.
Yesham na tushto bhagavan.
Yajnalingo janardanaha.
Yajnalingo janardanaha.
Tesham shramohi parthaya.
Tesham shramo hi aparthaya.
Yadatmanadritah swayam.
Yadatmanadrita swayam.
One more time. Yesham na tushto bhagavan.
Yesham na tushto bhagavan.
Lingo janardanaha.
Yajnalingo janardanaha.
Yesham shramo hi parthaya.
Tesham shramo hi aparthaya.
Yadatmanadritah swayam.
Yadatmanadrita swayam.
Voluntary recitations.
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yesham na tushto bhagavan.
Yesham
na tushto bhagavan.
Yajnalingo janardanaha.
Yajnalingo janardanaha.
Tesham shramo hi aparthaya.
Tesham
shramo hi aparthaya.
Yadatmanadrita swayam.
Yadatmanadritah swayam.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Please recite.
Yesham na tushto bhagavan.
Yesham
na tushto bhagavan.
Yajnalingo janardanaha.
Yajnalingo janardanaha.
Tesham shramo hi aparthaya.
Shramo hi aparthaya.
Yadatmanadrita swayam.
Yadatmanadrita swayam.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yesham na tushto bhagavan.
Yesham
येषां न तुष्टो भगवान्
यज्ञलिङ्गो जनार्दनः
Yagyalingo
जनार्दनः
तेषां श्रमो हि पार्थाय
तेषां श्रमो ह्यपार्थाय
यदात्मानादृतः स्वयं
यदात्मानावृतः स्वयं
स्वयम्
हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mata. So let's discuss. So Yesham, now Brahmaji is telling to Manu, Yesham is one who na tushto, does not satisfy, na tushto. Bhagavan. Now three different adjectives are given about the Supreme Lord. So Bhagavan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest feature of the Lord. Yagya Lingaha. So Lingaha is means so many things, but one meaning is the shape. Yagya Linga is in the form or the shape of the yagya or sacrifice. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur defines this as he who is known by the process of worship, hearing, and chanting is called Yagyalinga. He who is known by the processes of worship, hearing, and chanting is known as Yagyalinga. So that is there. And then Janardana. So Janardana is another name of the Supreme Lord, and it is described in Vishnu Purana, described in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, name of Krishna. Vishnu Purana, name of Vishnu, indicating Vishnu. So Jana Ardana. So Ardana is a distress. Jana means people. So who takes care of all the distresses of people. And another understanding maybe Jana means, it comes from the Jan Dhatu or the root, which means to give birth or to have birth. So Ardana means the stress of being in birth is taken care by the Lord. It means that once who is inclined towards the Lord, he never gets birth again. So he is out of the cycle of the birth and death. So three different aspects of the Lord is given here. Yesham na tushto, one who does not satisfy, Bhagavan, Yagyalingo, Janardana. Tesham, all those people, Shrama, all the labor that they do, he, apa arthaya, artha and apa artha. Artha means having some meaning. Apa artha means no meaning, right? Their Shrama has no artha, no meaning. That goes without any results. Don't yield any result. You can say that way. And the other thing is Yadatma na dritah swayam. Yad Atma. Atma means the self. Na self or the super self. Here it's there. Nadritah swayam. Nadritah swayam is not respected swayam. His own self is also not respecting, because he's not respecting the supreme self. He's not respecting his own self. That is defined. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, those who do not satisfy the Lord perform useless labor, since their own atmas are not respected. This means that by not respecting the Lord, such persons do not even respect their own atmas. Not achieving anything for the self, they cannot be satisfied. So the satisfaction, why it's not there? Because they are not satisfying the Supreme Lord. That's why the satisfaction is not there. So it is being told that whatever should be done, it is done for the satisfaction or the pleasure of the Lord. Then only that Shrama have any artha. So that is this verse says. So let's read the translation and go more into details in the purport.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana, Lord Krishna, is the form to accept all the results of sacrifice. If he is not satisfied, then one's labor for advancement is futile. He is the ultimate self, and therefore one who does not satisfy him certainly neglects his own interests. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
So beautifully, Srila Prabhupada rephrases and puts it so beautifully. Now the Supreme Bhagavan here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Bhagavan. Who is Janardana? Janardana is another name of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is the form to accept all the results of the sacrifice. Yajnalinga, all the results of the sacrifice. All form to accept. Linga and yajna here. If he is not satisfied, now Prabhupada adds here to make us understand the meaning of the verse. If he is not satisfied, then one's labor for advancement of life is futile. Apa-arthaya. It becomes apa-arthaya. Shama, apa-arthaya. He is the ultimate self. Who is the Supreme Lord? Is the ultimate self. And therefore, one who does not satisfy him certainly neglects his own interest. So we are Atma and the Lord is the Paramatma. So if we are not satisfying the Paramatma, then our own Atma is not satisfied. That's what being discussed here. So that's why Brahmaji instructs Manu, please, whenever you create progeny and do all those activities, do in such a way that you can please the Supreme Lord. So that is the instruction being given by Brahmaji to Manu. So let's read the purport and have more detailed discussions.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Brahma is deputed as the supreme head of universal affairs, and he in his turn deputes Manu and others as charges the affairs of the material manifestation. But the whole show is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahma knows how to satisfy the Lord, and similarly, persons engaged in the line of Brahma's plan of activity also know how to satisfy the Lord. The Lord is satisfied by the process of devotional service, consisting of the ninefold process of hearing, chanting, etc. It is in one's own self-interest to execute prescribed devotional service, and anyone who neglects this process neglects his own self-interest. Everyone who wants to satisfy his senses, but above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the individual self, and above the individual self is the super self. Above even the super self is the supreme personality of Godhead, Vishnu Tattva. The premier Lord and the cause of all causes is Sri Krishna. The complete process of perfectional service is to render service for the satisfaction of the transcendental senses of Lord Krishna, who is known as Janardana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So Srila Prabhupada again goes into more details of the verses and brings out all the essence from the verse. Now he's saying Brahmaji is the supreme head of the universal affairs because he is given the opportunity for the secondary creation because he was created by the Supreme Lord, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and then he becomes the supreme head. And he in turn deputes, then he goes on forward, deputes Manu because he gives the charge to Manu as a charge the affairs. This is a French word saying that he is giving the in charge of different things that like the main, like there are main head and then it gives to other cabinets, ministers, those different affairs. So those kind of things is different of material manifestation. So this is where only talking about the material manifestation. Spiritual aspects are different. But the whole show, Srila Prabhupada beautifully puts that in. The whole show is for the satisfaction of the personality of Godhead. Why this all thing is happening? This is happening for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. So then he says why? Then he gives the reason why it is. Brahma knows how to satisfy the Lord, and similarly, persons engaged in the line of Brahma's plan, that is Brahma's progeny. And also, if we understand our things, Brahma is Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So we come in that Sampradaya. So he is our head also. So in Parampara also, he is our Paramaguru, right? So he knows. So whoever comes in that line also knows how to satisfy the Lord. Like Manu, in this case, he knows how to satisfy the Lord. In the previous verse, he mentions that how Manu has created Manu Samhita to do things in a proper order. So everything happens for like, so that the ultimate goal is to please the Supreme Personality of God. And how the Lord is satisfied? As the Bhagavatam says, everywhere, Srila Prabhupada always brings in the purports the thing, how he is satisfied by the process of devotional service. If anything you can get from the Bhagavatam is this is the process of devotional service, which is the supreme occupation by the living entity at all the times and also at the time of death. That's what the question Parikshit Maharaj asked to Shukadeva Goswami. So, and this is composed of many ninefold processes. That is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Ityadi, Ityadi, hearing, chanting, etc. It is in the own self-interest to execute the prescribed. So why it is there? It's because of the self-interest. Why? Anyone who neglects this process neglects his own self-interest. Because everyone wants to satisfy his senses. So if one can be happy by satisfying his senses, imagine if somebody wants to satisfy the supreme sense or supreme self. So he will get more satisfaction, ultimate satisfaction. So that's why it is mentioned here. Everyone wants to satisfy his senses, but above the senses. And then Srila Prabhupada gives a hierarchy how we can understand that. And this hierarchy is given in Bhagavad Gita. So there is a verse which tells about that above the senses is the mind, above the mind is the intelligence, above the intelligence is the individual self or the soul, and above the individual self is the super soul or Paramatma. Above even the super self, which is one of the features of the Lord, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate aspect of Lord, which of understanding of this absolute truth. Lord is also considered as absolute truth. He could be understood in three different aspects. One is the Paramatma aspect. One is the Brahma aspect. Then comes Paramatma. Then comes Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is the ultimate aspect. So that's why it's saying that even the super self is above. Even the super self is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is Vishnu Tattva. As super self also is Vishnu Tattva, but this is on a higher level here. The primeval Lord and the cause of all causes is Sri Krishna, is the fountainhead of all the incarnations, as we have seen in the first canto. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Ete Chansha Kala Punsha, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Indrari Vyakulam Loke, Bladyanti Yuge Yuge. That verse and describes that. This complete process, now this line ends it beautifully. The complete process of perfectional service is to render service for the satisfaction of the senses. And Lord's senses are not normal senses. It's not like our senses, which can do certain. If Lord's senses are satisfied, they are transcendental. If they are satisfied, then everything else is satisfied. There is a supreme bliss, supreme satisfaction happens in the life of the living entity. So that is the beauty of satisfying the Supreme Lord is. So this verse, if you summarize, it says that our labor or whatever we do, if we do in the service of the Lord, especially if it is done in the process of devotional activity or devotional service, then it has a meaning because this is directly satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord. So when we satisfy him, we become satisfied. Otherwise, we always look for happiness here and there, but we never get into that. Even though if we get a bit of it, we become happy, and then again, the same sadness or unhappiness remains. But once we satisfy the Supreme Self, we are ultimately blissful. So that is what being described here. And Brahmaji is instructing Manu to do that by all his activities. So I'll pause here and we can see reflections, corrections, and any other points. So if there is no points here, I think it is quite clear. So we can actually understand that what our real goal is in our life is to satisfy the senses of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, any activity that we do has no meaning, has no ultimate meaning. So with that, we would, I want to thank everyone for the wonderful association, and because of that, we could do the Bhagavad Katha together. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo